So this book is soon to be superseded, and it's going to be almost double the size. Welcome, I'm Dan Jackson and this is my channel Dan's the Engineer. In this video I'm going to be going through what we know about the new wiring regulations, the 18th edition, which is due to be out on the 1st of July 2018. It's not far at all. So there's been the draft copy which you can basically go online, view, comment and put your input on the BSI website. I will put a link on that below. I have also done another video on how you can go about that, but I believe they do have a PDF version that you can now see on the screen. I'll put a link somewhere that you can click. It'll be up there or there, one or the other, I don't know. The information I'm about to give you is from a presentation which was produced by a guy called Paul Meenan. Now, this is more from a client's perspective, however, it's very important for electricians, other clients, consultants, anybody who's involved in electrics, because it is really relevant one way or the other. Now, I will put a link below in the descriptions to Paul's LinkedIn. Now, Paul is a member of various professional bodies. He's got so many letters after his name, it's more than the alphabet, so I'm not going to try and say them all. But anyway, go check him out, he knows his stuff. So the topics to consider are: why are we here? Who are the IET? History of British Standard 7671. What are the wiring regulations to me? What are the duties under law? What we know so far? Impacts of changes to the industry and to clients, and the next steps. So why are we here? The British Standard 7671 is being updated. So how is that going to affect anybody in the electrical industry, and how should businesses and individuals prepare themselves, and what impact it has on them? And also to create, forums and discussions about how we need to sort of move forward, because it affects everybody. So who are the IET? Originally called the Institute of Electrical Engineers, the IEE formed in 1871. Then in 2006, the IEE merged with the Institute of Incorporated Engineers, the IIE. This formed the Institute of Engineering and Technology, the IET. The IET represents the engineering profession in matters of public concern and assists governments to make public aware of engineering and technological issues. It provides advice on all areas of engineering, regularly advising Parliament and other agencies. History of British Standard 7671. The wiring regulations were first issued in 1882 by the Society of Telegraph Engineers and Electricians, consisting of 4 pages and 21 regulations entitled Rules and Regulations for the Prevention of Fire Risks Arising from Electric Lighting. This is now referred to as the first edition. The first edition had requirements for isolation, Regulation 7, mechanical protection and labelling, Regulation 17, and periodic inspection, which is now known as Electrical Installation Condition Report. The rules document was updated many times until the 8th edition came out in 1924, which is quite a while ago, where it was reprinted with the title Regulation for the Electrical Equipment of Buildings. It kept the name until 1981, when the 15th edition was printed, where it became known as the requirements for electrical installations. The regs, as they were known in the trade, were again amended on numerous occasions until 1991. They were reissued again under the title Requirements for Electrical Installations, the IEE Wiring Regulations 16th edition. In 1992, they gained the status of a British standard and became known as British Standard 7671. They were amended 3 times, after which they were reissued as British Standard 7671 2001. After this, 2 more amendments followed. The new edition, the 18th edition, is due to come out on the 1st of July 2018. It's going to be a blue book. It's my favourite colour, and it's going to supersede the previous. So what do the regulations mean to me? Bear in mind, this is by the author of this presentation. They're defined as a code of practice, even though called requirements, and deemed a non-statutory standard published by the BSI and are used in UK across the world. They relate to design, selection and erection and inspection and testing of electrical systems, regardless of whether the system is permanent or temporary. And that's quite a good point. Most people think that temporary installations shouldn't be covered by the standards. They are. The regulations are the national standard used for electrical installations across the UK on voltages up to 1,000 volts AC or 1,500 volts DC. Even though they are non-statutory, they have been referred to in extensive HSC guidance notes and Electrical Safety and Quality and Continuity Regulations 2002 for the electricity supply industry. You can be prosecuted for failure to comply under the Health and Safety at Work Act, Section 17. It is universally accepted that the compliance with the document and its requirements will enable you to comply with the Electricity at Work Regulations 1989. At this point, I'm going to apologise if my eyes are wandering all around the screen. I'm reading this presentation. I was going to try and learn it, but I was up at 4 a.m. with the kids. Nightmare. So what are the duties under law? In 1974, the Health and Safety at Work Act was published. This imposes duties on employers and employees, including the self-employed. It shall be the duty of every employer to ensure, so far as reasonably practical, the health and safety and welfare at work of his or her employees. On the 1st of April 1990, the Electricity at Work Regulations 1989 were published. This imposed a duty on people or duty holders in respects of work activities on or near systems, electrical equipment and conductors. Electricity at Work Regulations 1989. If a requirement of the regulation is absolute, for example, if the requirement is not qualified by the words so far as reasonably practical, the requirement must be met regardless of cost or any other consideration, hence the use of the word shall. So what regulations are an absolute? Number 4, systems, activities and protective equipment. Number 5, strength and capability of electrical equipment. Number 8, earthing. Number 9, integrity of conductors. Number 10, connections. Number 11, means of protecting from excess current. Number 12, means of cutting off the supply for isolation. Number 13, precautions for work on an equipment made dead. Safe isolation. Number 14, working on or near live conductors. And number 15, workspace access and lighting. The Electricity at Work Regulations number 29. In any proceedings for an offence consisting of a contravention of regulations 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16, it shall be a defence for any person to prove that he took all reasonable steps and exercised all due diligence to avoid the commission of that offence. In most cases, designers, electricians, engineers are employed to take all reasonable steps. What do we know so far? The UK National Committee responsible for the wiring regulations is known as JPEL 64. CEN-ELEC harmonisation mandates this committee to review and update BS 7671 accordingly to ensure alignment with the HD 603-64 series of standards. HD is harmonised documents. 4 panels inform JPEL 64 board, who are the decision-making committee of BS 7671. Panel A covers verification and inspection and testing, Part 6 and Appendix 6 of BS 7671, plus any working relating to parts 1, 2 and 3 of BS 7671. Panel B covers cable sizing and installation and related matters. Some of the parts 4 and 5, appendices 3 and 4 and some parts 7 items of BS 7671. Panel C covers earthing installations and related matters. Some of the parts of Part 4 and 5 and some 7 of 7671. Panel D covers the remainder of parts 4 and 5 and some of parts of number 7 items and appendices of 7671, as well as amendments to the current regulations that cater for advances in technology and technical data updates. As a result of manufacturing developments, there will be some new sections in the standards. According to the IET and feedback from their monthly sessions and communications with the committees in charge of these changes, the following additional changes have become apparent. So we know that the existing book the existing standards, 17th edition, was 7 chapters, 496 pages. The 18th edition book is 8 chapters, 887 pages, with new definitions and new regulations. Will Brexit have a bearing on any of the regulations that are coming out? Will make changes? In theory, no, but it's all uncertain with Brexit. We're not too sure. Chapter 1, which covers the scope, objectives and fundamental principles. Regulations 110.11 onshore units for navigation vessels is now within scope. Regulation 120.3 now includes energy efficiency. Regulation 133.1.1 refers to the equipment outside of the scope or not in accordance with the regs as such to be noted on the electrical installation certificate. Regulation 133.1.3 has been modified to require a statement on electrical installation certificate where equipment is not appropriate or harmonised standard. Chapter 2, which covers definitions, there's loads of changes to what things are being called and their descriptions. So, for example, a bonding conductor used to be a protective conductor providing equipotential bonding, is now a protective conductor providing equipotential bonding for the purpose of equalising potential differences of exposed and extraneous conductive parts. Departure. Deliberate decision to not comply, requiring a statement by the designer that safety is no less than full compliance. Desk study is what it says it is. Combined short circuit current capability. Maximum short circuit current which can be handled by 2 short circuit protective devices in series. Combined short circuit protection. Overcurrent coordination. In short circuit conditions of 2 OCPDs in series, resulting in a combined short circuit current capability higher than 1 OCPD alone. Discrimination replaced. Well, the word discrimination is replaced by selectivity. Backup protection has now been introduced, and we've got a couple of new words: foundation earthing and non-conformity. In Chapter 41, protection against electric shock, there's a new regulation which is 411.3.4, requires in domestic premises additional protection by 30 milliamp RCD for AC final circuit supplying luminaire. So that's quite a big one for anybody who does domestic work. Basically, it's got a light on it, it needs to go on an RCD according to the draft of the regulations. Maximum disconnection time in table 41.1 now apply to circuits up to 63 amp with 1 or more socket outlets and 32 amp for final circuits supplying fixed current using equipment. In a TN earthing system, it's 0.4 seconds, and in a TT system, it's 0.2 seconds. Chapter 410, Introduction. 1. Protection in use without fault, now designated basic protection, was referred to as protection against direct contact. And number 2, protection under fault conditions, now designated fault protection, was referred to as protection against indirect contact. The terms basic protection and fault protection have been around since the 17th edition came out, and apparently they need to identify that the change is no longer necessary. These changes are deemed important in keeping up to date with the current use and language, despite how subtle a change can be. So we all know that, we all have different language for different things, but it's important to keep up with the current to sort of understand what it means. And you'll see some subtle differences with some of the words and phrases, such as in use without a fault being replaced with under normal conditions. These changes usually happen when the JPEL committee members agree improvements or modernisation is required so that BS 7671 is more readable by those who need to use it. So in Chapter 411, Regulation 411.3.1.2, what to bond, it's proposed that this regulation should have an additional line in the 18th edition due to the increase of the number of services to buildings that have insulating inserts such as water pipes and gas pipes. In most cases, such an increase could result in service pipes not meeting the characteristics of extraneous conductive part. The following line has been included in Regulation 411.3.2. Metallic pipes entering the building having an insulating section at their entrance need not be connected to the protective equipotential bonding. This means that electrical installers will need to identify whether or not incoming service pipe has an insulating insert to determine if it is required to have protective equipotential bonding or not. In Chapter 42, Protection Against Thermal Effects, a new regulation 421.1.7, arc fault protection devices, AFDD, may be used to provide final protection against fires caused by arc faults in the AC final circuits. This was due to concerns around protection relating to fire caused by electrical equipment. RCDs cannot detect series or parallel arcing because these faults do not result in leakage to earth. Protection against overvoltage will be changed fairly radically. Clause 441. Both IEC and CEN-ELEC have published updates concerning overvoltage. It is also apparent that protection against transient overvoltage will be significantly changed in BS 7671. Protection would have to be provided where the consequences affect human life, public services, and commercial and/or industrial activity. Risk assessment will need to be made as whether protection is required, having considered the potential human and commercial consequences of no protection. Chapter 5, Selection and Erection. The 17th edition Amendment 3 introduced a requirement for cables in escape routes to be protected against premature collapse. This term is now removed, meaning all cables must be protected against collapse. Chapter 53, Protection, Isolation, Switching, Control and Monitoring. This has been extensively rewritten. In Regulation 531.3.2, unwanted tripping requires designer to limit the amount of downstream current to not more than 30% of the RCD rating. So if you're designing a circuit and it has a 30 milliamp RCD on it, you can only allow up to 9 milliamps of earth leakage current on that circuit. So Chapter 5, Selection and Erection. This is quite a dramatic one. Chapter 54, Earthing Arrangements and Protective Conductors. Regulations 542.1.201 now requires a supplementary earth electrode at origin of installation to supplement the existing earth. So basically you have to put a new earth rod in, connect it to the existing earth. Also, provisions of foundation earthing is strongly recommended for new buildings. Section 753, Electrical Embedded Heating. Section 753 will be extended to include embedded electrical heating systems for surface heating and will include de-icing and frost prevention systems, so heat trace and that kind of thing. Revisions will include regulations relating to the protection against the effects of overheating caused by electrical short circuits in embedded units and relating to the harmful influence between the heating system and other electrical and non-electrical installations. Chapter 7, new requirement for polarity checks at the origin of the installation before the installation is energised. And there's, of course, revised forms of certification, which we're all going to have to get used to pretty quick. There's a new chapter number 8. There's currently 7, so there's going to be the 8th. It will also cover energy efficiency. So installations will be awarded points for their energy efficiency performance levels. I won't go into too much detail because it's a whole new chapter, but that's what they're proposing. In this chapter, there's a few new terminology. Active electrical energy efficiency measures, which is the measures for the optimization of electrical energy produced, supplied, flowing and consumed by electrical installation for the best permanent functionality equivalent service. Distribution system design of cables and associated electrical equipment for the distribution of electrical energy. Current using equipment, electrical equipment intended to convert electrical energy into another form of energy, for example, light, heat, mechanical energy. So what are the impact of these changes? If anything I've told you so far, you've got comments or you want to look more on, again, I'm going to put a link below to the BSI website where you can log on, read the comments by other people that they've made. You can make your own comments and basically discuss how it's going to be changed. It's important to discuss this, although it's not out yet and it's not been published, but it's important to discuss these changes before. I believe the deadline to get your comments in is the end of August, I think. These are the comments made by the author of this presentation, so bear in mind it's from a client's perspective. So you have to ask yourself, what is a safe installation evermore with all these changes? So why have the BSI and the IET made the commenting system so difficult when it was more simple before? That's on the BSI website. It's also less accessible by anyone who is not IET savvy, which I believe they have changed now. It's a PDF that you can read and comment. Does anyone benefit from the changes proposed? You be the judge of that. Who has the time to read this and then cross-check between new and current regulations to understand the changes before the August deadline? Because we have been given a really, really short deadline. It's only been a couple of months. Does my installation now not comply? You know, that's a big question for anybody. And does this mean I'm in breach of the Electricity at Work regulations 1989? Perhaps not. So there's going to be costs for retraining for the 18th edition. Individuals, employers and clients, everybody needs to get up to date on this and understand the changes. And to be honest, there's a lot of people in the industry who don't understand the current standards already, so we'll see how that goes. Costs for new books, we all know they're expensive. I've just shown you at the beginning, I've got quite a selection of books. I've got to replace them all. So there's going to be, I think, you know, all the guidance notes, you know, we have to pay for that. New standards must be reviewed against ISO 55000 standard as it has an impact on bringing current asset portfolio into compliance. All installations will pretty much fail electrical installation condition reports, so insurers may demand compliance, and this, you know, the client's going to pay for this. Revise specifications to define departures from whole sections of the standards. Should we seek to attain compliance with past standards, whether it's 16th or 17th edition? The regulations sort of point that it's not client-led as such. The designer has the ability to make decisions based on supply chain needs, not the client. So it could have a huge impact on business operations and cost ultimately. Huge confusion in supply chain as to CDM application as design liability of roles. Clients are going to have to change their specifications to suit the new regulations, which is going to take time and money. And so again, it's a cost impact. And what makes these regulations any better than the past? So how can we now turn around and say that is now unsafe, you need to change it, when, you know, a year ago it was absolutely fine? There's going to be changes in that, and, you know, even as a contractor, you're going to come up with, you know, the argument with clients and that question, why do we have to change it? And how will these changes make any individuals better, hence improving the problem being seen across the entire industry? Standards are not brilliant. There's a lot of substandard work out there. How do these regulations change that? In my eyes, they don't. Regulations sort of point towards new products that are coming out, and old products won't comply and so forth, if you read the standards. So there's going to be a lot of discrepancy between client and installer, which causes, you know, reputational damage. And, you know, it's going to cost everybody in the industry. Whether you're an electrician or a client, it's going to cost one way or the other, so it's going to have financial impacts. Ask yourself, why has the Electricity at Work regulations not been updated since 1989? So I hope this presentation has been useful. Just bear in mind that this isn't my presentation, I'm doing this for somebody else. It's a presentation that I read that I thought was quite informative. So it's really important, everybody needs to read the draft of the regulations. Obviously, told you a few times now, I'm going to put a link below so you can get to it, to make your comments and make your feelings known. It's quite important. I mean, there has been quite a small deadline, so it's going to affect everybody. You can make a difference by putting your input. Please bear in mind that this presentation was done on the draft that originally came out, so it's not on the actual document that has been set out. When the new standards come out, I'm going to do a new video to keep everybody updated, because this is just speculation about what we have to do, whereas obviously when it comes out we have to work to that. And, you know, I'll be talking with various bodies and people in the industry to sort of get more of an insight, so we can all work from the same page, because so many people are not doing that so far. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.